The soup kitchen smelled like onions, warm bread, quiet desperation. Marcus Bennett stood near the serving table, sleeves rolled up, watching his 8-year-old daughter Ava hand out plastic cups of water like they were treasures. She smiled at every person, no matter how tired or broken they looked. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging his shirt, "that man hasn't eaten yet." Marcus followed her gaze. An old man sat alone near the wall, coat too thin, beard untrimmed, hands shaking slightly as he stared at the floor. Didn't push forward. Didn't ask, he just waited. Marcus grabbed a tray and walked over. "Sir," he said gently, kneeling a little, "would you like some food?" The old man looked up slowly, eyes sharp despite the wrinkles. "Only if there's enough," he said. "I don't want to take from anyone else." Marcus smiled. "There's enough." He filled the tray with soup, bread, and an apple. Ava placed a napkin on top like it mattered. The old man's lips trembled. "Thank you," he said quietly. Marcus nodded. "I'm Marcus. This is my daughter Ava." The man hesitated. "Call me Henry." They moved to a small table. Ava sat across from Henry, swinging her legs. "You can have my cookie," she said suddenly, sliding it toward him. Henry raised a hand. "Only if we share," he said. They broke it in half. As Henry ate, Marcus noticed his hands clean, careful, not the hands of someone who had always lived on the street. There was something else too. Dignity. Like homelessness was a chapter, not the whole book. "You come here often?" Marcus asked. Henry shook his head. First time in a long while, a volunteer called out that food was running low. Marcus glanced at the pot, almost empty. He turned back to Henry, then to Ava. "Stay here," Marcus told his daughter. He walked to the serving table and quietly paid for extra meals from his wallet. It was money meant for groceries. Rent was due in 5 days. He felt the familiar pinch in his chest and ignored it. When he returned, he handed the bowls to nearby families. Henry watched him closely. "You didn't have to do that," he said. Marcus shrugged. "My dad used to say you never miss what you give away." Henry studied him like he was trying to remember something. "What do you do, Marcus?" "Whatever pays," Marcus replied. "Right now? Warehouse nights? Construction when I can? And your wife?" Marcus's smile faded, passed away. 2 years ago. Henry bowed his head. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," Marcus said. "We're still standing." Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. The room buzzed with low voices. When Henry finished eating, he reached into his coat, then stopped. He looked embarrassed. "I have nothing to give you." Marcus shook his head. "I already said thank you." Henry smiled faintly. "But that's not what I meant." Closing time was announced. People began to leave. Henry stood slowly. "Marcus," he said, "may I walk with you for a moment?" They stepped outside into the cool evening. Ava skipped ahead. Henry stopped under a flickering streetlight. "Kindness is rare when people are struggling," he said. Marcus nodded. "My daughter's watching." Henry's eyes followed Ava. "Yes," he said softly. A black sedan idled across the street. Henry glanced at it, then back at Marcus. "I hope we meet again," Henry said. Marcus smiled. "Me too." Henry turned and walked away. Marcus had no idea the homeless old man he fed dinner to was a millionaire RO, that their paths were about to cross again and change everything. The next morning, Marcus woke before his alarm. The quiet weight of responsibility pressing on his chest. Ava slept curled beside him, clutching her stuffed rabbit. He watched her breathe and reminded himself why every sacrifice mattered. Breakfast was simple toast, peanut butter, and sliced apples. Ava didn't complain. She never did. On the way to school, Marcus dropped a few coins into a street musician's open case, then headed to the warehouse. The day dragged. Boxers, pallets, overtime he hoped would be approved. His supervisor pulled him aside near lunch. "Ours might get cut next week," the man said apologetically. Marcus nodded, already calculating. Rent, utilities, food, he'd make it work. He always did. That evening, as Marcus waited outside Ava's school, a black sedan pulled to the curb. It's the same kind he'd seen under the flickering streetlight. The window lowered. "Marcus Bennett?" driver asked. Marcus stepped closer, cautious. "Yes, Mr. Henry Lawson would like a word." Marcus blinked. "Henry." The back door opened. The old man from the soup kitchen sat inside, clean-shaven now, hair neatly combed, wearing a simple gray coat that somehow looked expensive without trying. His eyes were the same sharp, observant, kind. "Get in," Henry said. "Please." Marcus hesitated. Then Ava ran up, backpack bouncing. "Daddy," Henry smiled. "Hello again," Ava waved. "Hi, cookie friend." Henry laughed softly. "May we talk for a few minutes?" Marcus buckled Ava into the car seat, heart thudding, then slid in beside her. They drove only a short distance, stopping at a quiet park. The driver stayed behind. Henry stepped out, leaning on a cane Marcus hadn't seen before. "I owe you an explanation," Henry said as they walked. Marcus crossed his arms. "You don't owe me anything." Henry stopped by a bench. "I wasn't always homeless," he said. Marcus frowned. "My name is Henry Lawson," Henry continued. "I built a logistics company decades ago. Sold it, walked away wealthy. Then my wife died. My son stopped speaking to me. I lost purpose." He met Marcus's eyes. "I chose the streets for a while. To listen. To remember what mattered." Marcus let out a slow breath. "So the car, the driver?" Henry nodded. "I am, by most definitions, a millionaire." Ava's eyes widened, like in cartoons. Henry smiled. "Quite." Marcus felt dizzy. "Why tell me?" "Because you fed me when you didn't know," Henry said. "And because I watched you give away money you couldn't spare." Henry reached into his coat and produced a folded card. "I run a small foundation now. Quiet, practical. I'm looking for someone I can trust." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not your guy." Henry's gaze was steady. "You're exactly my guy." He gestured to Ava, now climbing the bench. "You raise her with patience. You treat strangers with dignity." "You don't ask for credit." Marcus swallowed. "What do you want?" "Nothing today," Henry said. "Just permission to help." Marcus thought of the rent notice taped to the fridge. The cut hours, the future. "I don't want charity," Marcus said. "Neither do I," Henry replied. "I want partnership." They stood in silence as leaves rustled overhead. "Think about it," Henry said gently. "I'll be in touch." As the sedan pulled away, Marcus watched it go, mind racing. He didn't know it yet, but saying yes or no would test everything he believed about pride, kindness, and the true cost of accepting help. For 3 days, Marcus tried to forget the black sedan, the cane, the calm certainty in Henry Lawson's voice. He focused on work, on Ava's spelling homework, on stretching meals without letting her notice. But Henry's words followed him like an echo. Permission to help. On the 4th day, a letter arrived. Cream-colored envelope, no logo, just his name, written neatly. Inside was a single page and a phone number. "Marcus, I meant what I said. Partnership, not charity. If you're willing, meet me tomorrow at noon. No pressure." Henry Marcus folded the letter and stared at the wall. Pride told him to tear it up. Responsibility told him to go. At noon the next day, he stood in front of a modest brick building downtown. No flashy sign, just a small plaque. Lawson Community Logistics Initiative. Inside the space buzzed with quiet purpose maps on walls, schedules on whiteboards, people moving boxes with efficiency. Henry met him at the door, dressed simply. "You came. I'm listening," Marcus replied. They walked through the building. Henry explained the mission, using unused warehouse space, surplus food, then underemployed drivers to move resources where they were needed, most shelters, schools, disaster zones. "The problem isn't generosity," Henry said. "It's coordination." They stopped at a table where volunteers packed boxes. Henry gestured. "I need someone who understands scarcity, someone people trust." Marcus shook his head. Henry smiled. "You qualified yourself when you chose to give." They sat in a small office. Henry slid a folder across the desk. Inside were numbers Marcus had never imagined. Budgets, routes, plans, then a simpler page. Operations-led training provided salary listed beneath it made Marcus's breath catch. It wasn't outrageous, it was stable. "This isn't a handout," Henry said. "You'll work hard, you'll make decisions, you'll be accountable." Marcus thought of Ava's shoes with worn soles, of nights counting coins, of dignity. "What's the catch?" he asked. Henry's eyes softened. "The catch is responsibility." The risk that people will judge you for accepting help. Marcus closed the folder. People already judge. Henry nodded. True. That night, Marcus talked to Ava while washing dishes. What do you think about helping people? For work, he asked. Ava smiled. Like the soup kitchen? Like that, Marcus said. She considered it seriously. If it helps them, and us, it sounds good. Marcus laughed quietly. You're wiser than me. He called Henry the next morning. I'll try, Marcus said. Training began fast. Systems, schedules, crisis planning. Marcus learned routes and resources, learned how a delayed truck could mean empty shelves for a shelter. He learned to speak up, to say no when safety mattered, to say yes when speed saved lives. The first test came sooner than expected. A storm flooded a nearby district. Shelters overflowed. Supplies ran low. Marcus coordinated drivers through the night. Phone pressed to his ear, coffee untouched. He rerouted trucks, called favors, opened storage units Henry had quietly kept for emergencies. By dawn, aid arrived. Volunteers clapped. Marcus, a shelter director, hugged Marcus. We didn't think anyone would come so fast. Marcus stepped outside, exhausted, rain misting the air. Henry joined him. You did well, Henry said. Marcus shook his head. We did. Henry smiled. Cross town. Word spread quietly. About a man who knew hunger and moved help like he knew the streets. About a foundation that didn't posture. Marcus went home, tucked Ava in, and sat at the edge of the bed. He realized something then. Accepting help hadn't made him weaker. It had made his kindness bigger than his reach alone ever could be. 6 months later, Marcus barely recognized the man he used to be not, because life was suddenly easy, but because it finally felt steady. The mornings no longer began with panic. Rent was paid on time. The fridge stayed full. Ava's laughter filled the apartment in a way that sounded lighter, freer. At the Lawson Community Logistics Initiative, Marcus moved with purpose. He knew every route, every driver's strength, every shelter's needs. People trusted him not because of his title, but because he listened. When mistakes happened, he owned them. When successes came, he shared the credit. Henry watched quietly. One afternoon, Marcus found Henry sitting alone in the break room, staring at an old photograph. That your wife? Marcus asked gently. Henry nodded. She believed in quiet good, he said. No speeches, no headlines. Marcus smiled. She would have liked this place. Henry folded the photo and looked up. She would have liked you. The words landed heavy. That evening, Marcus brought Ava to the office for a small celebration. Shipment had just crossed its 1 millionth meal delivered. Volunteers cheered. Someone handed Ava a cupcake. She grinned like she'd won the world. Henry knelt beside her. You know, he said, your dad taught me something important. Ava tilted her head. What? That generosity doesn't come from having more? Henry said. It comes from remembering what it's like to have less. Ava nodded seriously. Daddy says sharing is brave. Henry laughed. He's right. Later that night, as Marcus locked up, Henry handed him a folder. I want you to have this. Inside was a document Marcus didn't expect. Equity transfer agreement. Marcus stiffened. No, he said immediately. That's not what we agreed. Henry raised a hand. It's not money. It's responsibility. If something happens to me, this work shouldn't stop. Marcus's throat tightened. I don't want to replace you. You won't, Henry said. You'll continue what we built. Marcus stared at the page. He remembered the soup kitchen, the apple, the half cookie. How close he'd been to saying, sorry, there's not enough, he sighed. Weeks later, Marcus saw Henry again, this time at the same soup kitchen where they'd first met. Henry wore the same thin coat. Marcus frowned. What are you doing here? Henry smiled. Listening. They served quietly side by side. No cameras, no announcements. A man approached, hesitant, hungry. Marcus handed him a tray. Thank you, the man said, voice shaking. Marcus met his eyes. There's enough. Henry watched, pride and peace settling into his bones. That night, Marcus tucked Ava into bed. She yawned. Daddy, she asked, are we rich now? Marcus smiled, brushing her hair back. We have enough, he said. We help. She nodded, satisfied, and drifted off. Marcus stood by the window, city lights blinking like quiet promises. He thought about how easily this story could have ended differently, how pride could have closed his hands, how fear could have kept him small. Instead, one meal had become a movement. Henry Lawson, the millionaire who chose the streets to remember his humanity, had found a successor not through resumes or recommendations, but through kindness. And Marcus Bennett, the single dad who gave food he couldn't spare, learned that sometimes generosity doesn't just change someone else's life. Sometimes it rewrites your own completely.